Go ahead, Rich.
Like, hey everybody, we're back. Like I was saying, getting from first phase to second phase was not easy. There's some bad shit that happened to me on first phase. There was an instance where I was at a host home and we were told to make our own sandwiches in the morning. And I don't know, they said we were making bologna and cheese sandwiches. And I put 3 pieces of bologna on mine and a piece of cheese. I didn't think anything of it, really. The old comers counted the pieces of bologna beforehand and realized that I'd taken one more than everyone else. No one told me I couldn't take any more than 2 slices. I just did it. For fuck's sake, I was starving. Mm-hmm. Really, that's the other part of straight. I was constantly, incessantly hungry, like hungry. Try being 18 years old and having some 1,000-calorie diet a day thing go on. It was insane. So anyway, to make a very bizarre and long story shorter, I was confronted in group for it, and I was told I was a thief. And what they did, and this was in the middle of winter in Virginia at this point, they took away my coat, which was a light jacket. I'd just come from Florida, for fuck's sake. I wasn't prepared to go to the frigidness of the Northeast. And they took my jacket away from me, and they put me on half rations, which was even worse than a peanut butter diet, truthfully. I would have loved to have had anything in my stomach besides air. I know that sounds bizarre to anyone who might not understand. And I was on that for a couple of months. I would think in a little better than a couple months' time, I lost 30 pounds. My hair was falling out. My teeth were loose. And I was an 18-year-old boy. I was literally starving. I investigated years later when I got out of there. These are all signs of malnutrition. Vitamin deficiencies, that's what does that kind of stuff. So, I mean, just to put it into example, like a typical meal at home when you got home, you may get like an Oscar Mayer hot dog, right? On a piece of bread. And you may get, a largish kind of, red cup of some kind of juice or something. And I got exactly half of what everyone else did, which really came down to half of almost nothing. That was terrible. So I finally got off of first phase. And like I was saying before, that altar or that veneer had really taken hold. To put it into some kind of perspective, it's hard to put into a perspective, but I will do my best. I turned into another person while I was in there, just to survive, because I couldn't let them know what I was really thinking and feeling. I could laugh about it now, but that could have been the worst possible thing I ever could have done, is tell them exactly what was really going on in my mind. I would have been tortured for it, literally tortured. For people who don't understand, like, these were torture centers. They taught children to torture each other. And they had no supervision besides the children themselves. And I grew this exterior shell to keep me from completely losing my mind. And I did horrific things to people. And like I was talking about before, like the dog locked in a room, my real persona, my real consciousness was weeping and condemning me for doing these things. And it was like watching someone else control your body and the things you say and how you act, your mannerisms, your body language, you name it, because all of it was under examination. So I made it off the first phase. And that's when the real abuse, it was all abusive, but it stepped up to a much greater level at that point in time. Because not only did I have to do these horrible things that Straight said I had to do in order to get myself better or whatever, undrugify myself, but now I had to start doing it to other people. And if I didn't, these newcomers could drop a slip on me, saying Rich was being weak with me. Rich fell asleep. Rich didn't do this. Rich didn't do that. And I saw what happened to other old comers when that happened. They'd lose their phase status. They'd be sat back on front row again, or any number of really terrible things. And I was on second phase for a few months, because as this is going on, got to remember they're building up this brand new program. So day by day by day, more and more victims of Straight were abducted from their families and placed into this place with us, would just come out of the crucible of St. Petersburg. I felt looking back now, I feel sorry for those first kids who came in there. They really didn't have an idea what the hell was going on. They never heard of Straight before, like I had, just by virtue of having gone to high school in Florida. It became savage. It was an absolutely savage environment. And everyone was snapping at each other. Everyone was on the edge of their seat. Everyone was under the microscope. There was no place to hide in that group. You had to toe the line, and if you didn't toe the line, bizarre, painful consequences would follow. And I was scared shitless of that. I am a large man. I was a large kid. I was street kid, kind of like like any other guys, I guess, go to keg parties, make out with girls, fist fight your friends. I mean, that's what I did. And I knew how to fight. I knew how to take care of business. And inside of Straight, there was these homes, and they'd call them strong homes or something like that. There was a name for them, or it was part of our Straight lingo. I can't remember the exact term, but it wasn't really an official thing. It was more like it was just intonated that this is a strong household, meaning we're going to send you there. So not only will you be tortured for 14 hours a day underneath our hand, now you're going to go home with these fucking zealots, which I turned into, or straight zealot. And we're going to ask them to work with you. And we all knew what that meant. Like, the home that I was sent to was a strong home. I'm not going to mention the people's names. They sent problematic phasers there. People who wouldn't participate, people who acted out, people who were violent. And they were like, you guys take care of them. And we didn't do so non-physically. It was just very hands-on, and I'll just leave it at that. At home, in group, wherever. And in a way, it shielded me from becoming one of these kids that gets sent to one of these strong homes, you know what I mean? As long as I keep playing this game and I continuously have staff looking at you, they won't be looking at me. And sorely, and with great regret, that's exactly what I did. And if I had to do that in order for me to get the fuck out of that place, that's what I did. Again, I say this with no joy in my heart. I'm not proud of this. I don't feel guilty. I know that sounds crazy, but I don't feel guilty any longer. I don't fault myself for it any longer. But while I was in there, I sure did. In that little box inside of my head where the real Rich was encased. So I'm going to start talking about how I got the fuck out of there. I'm not going to keep reiterating phase after phase. I think everyone gets it now, or most people will. I got up to fourth phase. On fourth phase, you were allowed to go out on permissions with your parents, go shopping at the mall, buy clothes. A big deal was going to Farrell's ice cream shop in Springfield Mall and getting ice cream like a normal fucking kid, for Christ's sake. Actually eat a hamburger. And if you were lucky enough and your mom wasn't watching, you could check out some fine little heinies running around in the mall in the beginning of the 80s, okay? Let's be real about it, man. So I got up to fourth phase, and as you go up in phases, you get more and more responsibilities, and you get freedoms too. You're as they said, they reintegrate you back into society, which is a bunch of horse shit, really. I have a history of working in. I was a therapist, blah 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 blah. So I have a really good idea of what's what now. But back then, you get these freedoms, and all of these freedoms became, it was more and more difficult to walk that razor's edge all of the time because there's a lot of temptations to be normal, not to misbehave, but just to be a normal kid, tell dirty jokes, make fun of the teacher, right, maybe cheat off of someone's paper, not think anything of it. This is all normal teenage behavior. But for us, straightlings, fucking brainwashed, fucking poor, mixed up kids, it became more and more and more of a pressure cooker. When you went up in phases, it was more difficult. First phase sucked because all of your freedoms were taken away. Trust me, it was awful. But as you got up there in phases, the pressure that began to mount on you not to go backward in the program exponentially increased. And along with that exponential increase became the fear and the terror. I need to tell everyone who might see this, there's no limit to fear and terror. I have plumbed the depths of it, and it's a bottomless pit of despair. And that's exactly where the fuck I was for 2 fucking years. A bottomless pit of empty darkness that hurt my spirit and broke me as a man. I went to school one day. They denied all my permissions. Remember this trick? The group's in a bad place. So
shit. Yeah.
When's the last time you thought of that one? The group's in a bad place, which was their excuse for, we're just going to start fucking with everybody now. We're going to see where everyone's head's really at. And they start picking and pawing at people. And I hadn't been out of the building, the program, to do anything. Close to damn near 2 years at this time. Yeah. And they took away my first permissions to go out and do something. And it really, really pissed me off. And at that point in time, I was going to school. Could you imagine? Here I am. I looked like the guy from Dumb and Dumber because some mom cut my hair and it was like on an angle. It's short, fucking white walls around the ears. I go to Bethesda Chevy Chase High School in Bethesda, Maryland. I stick out like a sore thumb. I can't talk to 99% of the people that are in there. And I start going to school because that was either that or work. And since I hadn't really completed school prior to me going into straight, I was expelled from 5 different high schools before I showed up at straight. Not that that makes any difference now, but I had a behavior problem, whatever. I was a little weirdo, Sorry. I was in school, and it was that's the part that fucks me up when I think about it, is like my plan from day one. Remember what I said in the beginning? I figured out, sitting in the intake room, the only way out of this motherfucker is into this motherfucker. And I played along, created this new persona. And I went to school that day because you were still allowed to go to school or work. You just couldn't go out and do anything that was extracurricular. I went to school. I went to shop that day. I took a carpet knife out of the shop, put it in my back pocket, asked my teacher, who was normal and cool, could you please hold on to my guitar for me? And I fled Bethesda Chevy Chase High School and walked from Maryland to Washington, D.C. As I'm walking through there, randomly, a parent who knew me from St. Petersburg, who actually lived in D.C., ran into me in D.C. crossing the street. And at that point, I'd stolen a pair of mirrored sunglasses. And I had borrowed $5 from my teacher, bought a pack of Marlboro Reds, 2 books of matches, and was trying to be as indiscreet and incognito as humanly possible, trying to figure out what my next move's going to be. Because here's something that is inherent with straight and some other programs that have happened in the past. You split. They weren't like, oh, well, goodbye. No. They'd pack cars and vans with dads and lads from the group, and they chase you down like a fucking rabid dog. And here I am crossing the street, and there's a parent. I didn't know to go blind or shit myself at that. I'll never forget that. It was like, just talking about that bottomless pit of despair. Man, I went to a whole new level. Yeah. I thought the gig was up. And he confronted me. Rich, what are you doing here? Look at that. You're wearing mirrored sunglasses. You're putting off a, what did he say? A druggy attitude or something like that. Or
like a druggy image.
Yes. You're already doing a druggy image. And look, you got a pack of cigarettes in your pocket. You copped out. You're a cop out. You should come back with me. And I, like the fucking road runner, gone, running wildly, blindly through the streets of a city I'd never been in my entire life. If you've never been to Washington, D.C., there's lots of car traffic and there's even more foot traffic. And the streets, for the most part, are like a checkerboard, you know, north, west, east, south. But you get into some of the older parts where I ran into this guy, man, it was a warren of streets that none of it made sense. I was running blindly, ducking into like downstairs basement apartment doorways and watching cars go by, creeping by, and I'm thinking to myself, they're out there. I know he immediately called. They're already looking for me, and they were. And I did.
And they're everywhere.
At that point in time, fuck, man, I hadn't seen the sunlight or been in contact with other humans for almost 2 fucking years. You know, there's this video, right? And it shows these chimpanzees that have been living in a laboratory and they were being experimented on. And the only thing they'd ever known in their entire lives was the steel cage they were kept in and the laboratory and being mistreated. And these monkeys were rescued and they filmed them. They opened up the door of where they were staying, and the monkeys came out of there and they were frightened to touch the grass because they'd never seen it before. And that shock of like, they'd never been in an open, they'd never seen the sky before. And that's almost how I felt. And I saw that and I wept, I cried, because I related to that chimpanzee, like in that way when I finally escaped that fucking place. I escaped, I escaped. They call it copping out. I escaped. This was like trying to escape a jail. It was a jail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the only thing I could do is I called my father, because my mother during that time had told me that my father is no longer in the program. And I'm a pretty smart kid. I figured out, okay, he fucked up, something fucked up, and they threw him out. And that's why I'm, damn. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, getting back to that thing about the chimpanzees, that's what it felt like to be outside of that place. It was. Are we recording, Dave? Can you hear me? Thank you.
Okay. Seems like there's still a little bit of a delay.
Okay, I'm ready.
Ready? All right, let's go. All right, sorry about that, Rich.
Oh, it's cool.
Are we recording, Dave? We are recording, Rich.
Okay.
Can you hear me? I can hear it.
Okay. Sorry for the pause in service, folks. But anyway, I was left no other recourse than to call my father. And I called him up and I told him really what was going on in straight. And he put me up in a sleazy hotel room. This is a roach. And they found me then. And I remember them. They found me at that hotel. My father and mother must have told them where I was. Service folks. But anyway, I just left no other recourse at that hotel. My father and mother must have told them where I was. So I stacked furniture in front of the door, and they tried to break the door down of the hotel room, and they couldn't do it. And here I was on the other side of the door. I dismantled the little table leg. I'm holding a table leg and the box cutter in my hand. If they got in, someone's going to the fucking hospital, and I'm going to jail, which would be way better than ever going to straight.
I went ahead and paused it again. I don't know why. It's very frustrating with the
latency,
the delays and whatnot.
Yeah, it's weird. Sorry about that. Like, I'm sitting here being quiet sometimes, and I'm listening to myself that you're hearing me, and I wait till that's done and I start talking again. I think I'm filling up the buffer because I'm running my mouth. Okay.
Let's see how long it takes to do this.